Doing some root sketching today. This is Jen Bohr from Jen's Creative Designs, LLC in York, Pennsylvania. My studio combines the art of graphic design and illustration. I thought I'd do a little video here to show you a different technique. I'm known for my stipple illustrations drawn in all dots. This drawing is, however, not dots. It's a technique, just line work. Doing some shading here with the 005 micron pen. It's my favorite size because it's such a tiny felt tip. You can really get detailed work with it. As I go along here, I'm keeping the darker sections underneath the roots to help give it dimension. Pull the weight of the root. The shadow is going to be heavier on the bottom half. So I'm darkening that. Going with the curvature here of the root, the rounded. When you're sketching, you want to keep that dimension. That's what helps make it look realistic. Just follow the line work of what you're drawing, and helps it get more form when you sketch in the direction that your object is, in this case, growing. Again, as I've mentioned in some of my other videos, you want to keep your darks dark and your lights light. Have that high contrast, and that's what's going to create the 3D illusion, give it that roundness. Otherwise, your art's going to end up looking flat on the paper. See how I'm curving these lines? Keeping it in the direction, giving it dimension as we go. The roots are rounded, so I'm curving these lines upward around it, around this curve here. Keep bringing the line work around, shaping it. Working in two different directions here, creating a little bit of hatching technique. Gives it that nice organic look, that texture. Let's bring a couple lines going from this side over now. See how it's starting to form, giving it a roundness. You'll notice I keep turning my paper as I go here. It helps me get better curves and gets the line work flowing how I want it to. Again, the goal is to give it that roundness so it doesn't look like it's just flat on the paper. Paying keen attention to keep the darks dark, the lights light. You don't want to overfill it. We're using pen, so once it's there, it's there. You can't erase it. So it's very important not to overfill your piece. You can come back and add line work. But just make sure you keep these nice white open areas. Otherwise, it'll get too filled in. Let's give a little dimension up here and get this rounded. The hatching going downward, flowing along the side of the root. Darkening the shadow of this little root that's happening over top of here. Hatching is a nice technique opposite than stippling when you're using tiny little dots to create the shading. Here we're just doing cross hatch little lines in the direction that the roots are growing, giving it that curvature. always sketch my piece out in pencil first I like to use a 2H. Any H pencil really will work very well. The H's, as opposed to a B, like a 2B, is a harder lead. So you're going to get a lighter line. Doesn't matter how hard you press with that pencil, it's going to be lighter as opposed to your typical number 2 pencil that you used to use in middle school. When you're doing an ink overlay, you want to make sure that that pencil is easy to erase, isn't going to create lines in your paper, indentations. So I like using that H, because when I'm all done, I'll go back and erase all these pencil lines before I scan it and digitize it into the computer. In this case, this piece is going to be for a t-shirt screen print. So I'll go in Photoshop and knock out the white of the paper, which isn't actually white. It looks white as paper, but in Photoshop it's going to be a tingy off white yellow. Knock all that out, sharpen up the line work, multiply and increase the blacks. Then we can start playing with text and all that graphic design fun stuff. Got this fun little knot happening here. And just kind of make things up as you go. Kind of like Bob Ross. It can be happy little bumps and nooks and crannies. That's what makes it look organic. The fun part of drawing botanical things and nature is it's not perfect. So you can create your own little world how you think it should look. Like this little root. I think he's just going to twist around here and pop out this side. Maybe he's got a couple little stragglers growing there. I always like to work left to right as I'm right-handed, and you can see there on my hand you start to pick up some of the ink as you go across, so you don't want to smear your entire piece. So I always start from this side, that side, let her dry, you can come back to it and add to it. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off on this video. I'll post a final picture on my Instagram at CreativeGenB. This is the bottom half and the top half for the illustration work for screen printing. Thanks so much. I appreciate you watching.